Hello, everybody. What a miserable showing. I mean, what a miserable game. I'm feeling down. I bet you all are feeling pretty down as well right now. Um, Man, that's one of the most disappointing feelings of the season. So much to get into about all the different ways that one sucked. Definitely want to spotlight some positives too, like Zach Allen's amazing game. Um, but yeah, I mean that sucked. So another solo reaction this time around. Please comment if my audio is screwed up. I'm using my backup mic. Joey was no go. I tried to invite him tonight. I still don't think I heard back from him actually. Yeah, never heard back from Joey. So, who really loves the game? That's all I'm going to say. But yeah, that was a wildly painful game. I agree with you, Virtuous Exile. I thought the overtime play calling left a lot to be desired. I do think, we can't see the receivers downfield. Now, that didn't really apply in overtime necessarily, but I think so often, because broadcast view, you can't see much. Did the offense work? Great play calling. Did the offense not work? Terrible play calling. So I think that's an easy trap to fall into, but it was very disappointing to me how conservative it seemed to get again. Because I think they came back and the offense started rolling in part, like, yes, it was leaning on the run game. I think that was the biggest aspect there. But opening up the drop back pass game for Bo as well was another big reason. And he had some shots in there. I mean, he just missed Franklin. I think he missed Troutman as well, right? Are those the players you want to be targeting in that spot? No. But I also, don't know based on what we know now if those plays were drawn up for those specific players. So hard to say. Again, this is a solo reaction. If you guys haven't caught one of my earlier solo reactions, I'll just say I will go through every single one of y'all's comments. Did it each of these last few times. This time will be a little tighter, but I'm pretty confident I can do that. Go through every single one of your comments. So if you have any takes on the game, leave them below. We'll add it to the dialogue and go back and forth about it. As always, also, please like on the stream if you're watching this after it's live. Comments always help. Subscribe if you want to see more of us. All that stuff is greatly, greatly appreciated. All right, man, this sucks. But we just got to dive into it now. After I retweet the stream. Bree would be yelling at me right now if she was here. Did someone already put the YouTube underneath? No. Man, I'm going to start negative and then I'll go positive because I'll feel like I'm carrying water if I start off. If I come out of that game and the first takes I have are positive, I'm going to feel a bit like a shill. So, my top takeaway. So there's three aspects of this team that I think were so critical to them getting to that 9-5 mark they were at 2 weeks ago. And I'd say the three biggest factors in that were Sean Payton and the coaching in general, Bo Nix, and the defense. First and foremost, the defense. Right now, I think what's so concerning if you're a Broncos fan is I think all three of those aspects are hard to feel as confident in as you felt, 2-3 weeks ago. Bo Nix coming out of that Colts game has been very conservative. It's a bit of a feedback loop with him and Sean Payton. I don't know who is more to blame. I think Nix has been playing skittish and hesitant. I think we saw it in the first half, killing a couple of the Broncos drives where he was too quick to drop his eyes or look for a scramble, which isn't that atypical. We see most quarterbacks early in their career hit a rookie wall or like the sophomore slumps, a well-known about phenomenon. Look at CJ Stroud dropping off this year. And the offensive line is a big part of that too. But Teams getting tape on what you want to do and trying to take it away is another big part of it. And I think the Chargers really demonstrated well how to do that in the second half of last week's game, which was just played underneath stuff, because after those turnovers, they want to live on checkdowns and screens, which in the first half against the Chargers, they were doing great. I mean, what, Nix was had 1 or 2 incompletions and was averaging 8 yards per attempt. Like it was working, but that's going to have an expiration date on it, because it is, I don't want to say easy to defend, but it is fairly simplistic. And so once teams key on it, they can take it away. You need to have something countering off of it. And the Broncos haven't had that. And blame for that is twofold. Payton is, supposed to be the offensive mastermind. He needs to find a way to try and make things work. Nix is the quarterback, and he's a rookie. You don't expect a rookie to have it all figured out, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't acknowledge the fact that he doesn't have it all figured out, and that rookie quarterbacks are often limiting factors. And I think we're maybe seeing that here at this point in the season. That said, like I see Greg Dayton in here, Payton and Nix suck the weenie, he says. That might be a Bengals fan trolling, to be fair. But, well, we got another one in here saying Payton was a bum-ass coach or something like that. Man, where was that? Man, yeah, 1 first down and they would have gotten to the playoffs. That's wildly painful. Lots. God, I can't find it now. But Payton is deserving of criticism for this game, for the offense and the team fumbling down the stretch. Stumbling. I shouldn't say fumbling. Stumbling down the stretch here, the back-to-back years. Payton is worthy of criticism. This team is not 9-7 with 90% of NFL head coaches, or might be strong, 80% of NFL head coaches. It's been one of the best head coaching jobs in the league this year, and it is flawed. It's not perfect. Certainly. I heard people throw in a lot of shade at Andy Reid early on in the season too for his offensive play calling, and not doing enough to elevate Mahomes, right? And that team's 15-1 and going to be the 1 seed, might three-peat. So it's flawed, but I also think any reaction to, and same thing with Bo Nix. Like Bo Nix, I don't think you should be this sacred cow in Broncos country. We should be comfortable being like, hey, we're really excited about what the Bo Nix future must be like, but some of the skittishness we're seeing after, having some of those interception mistakes is concerning. I was happy to see him after the interception to Jermaine Pratt come out and, be firing the ball on that last drive to get the Broncos even in position to maybe win the game. But yeah, I think it's just like a gray area. It is, maybe the less interesting, less hot takey, but oftentimes the right answer. Like Sean Payton had a disappointing day and a disappointing game today, maybe even a disappointing last few weeks. But what he's done to this Broncos franchise has been remarkable. I mean, I'm sorry, do you remember the pre-Sean Payton years when this team was 5-12 or 4-12 or 5-11 or 6-10 every year? So I just, it's headed in the right direction. It's still not where it needs to be yet. And that's okay. No one expected that it would be where it needed to be this season. It's only hurts so much now because it looked like the playoffs were right there. And they still are. The Dolphins have a game against the Browns this weekend. There's going to be bad weather for that. I don't feel great about the Browns odds, but you never know. They'll have the Jets too. The Broncos are going to play a squad of backups next week. And then the Bengals have the Steelers, who I think probably going to lose that game. I think we saw tonight that they're a very flawed team. They were asking to give that game away to the Broncos, and the Broncos didn't just seize it. I think that's why it's also so painful. I mean, I think everyone was going into overtime with the same mindset of, dang, whoever wins this coin toss is probably going to win the game, because that's how it felt down the stretch with offenses just going back and forth. and Cincinnati wins the coin toss. They start driving, and you get those big sacks. Zach Allen was a man possessed today, had a marvelous game. You get those big sacks, get the ball back, and then do absolutely nothing with it, right? I'm pretty sure it was 3 and out. Boom, ball back. Cincy, they should have beat you that time. You get really lucky with a missed chip shot field goal. And then that time you don't even need points. You need a first down. You need a first down on that third down play, which that was a 3rd and 15. But first down's even earlier. Like if you get it on first down or you set up anything productive there, and are able to convert that third down, they run out the clock. It's a tie game, and that's enough for the Broncos to guarantee their spot in the postseason. And they couldn't get it done. So really, really, really frustrating. Almost did. I've seen the comments about it, but almost did, of course. Should note that was very, very, very close to connecting with Troy Franklin down the sideline for what would have been a game-changing completion. If you're watching on Twitter, by the way, YouTube link down below, join the comments. I can't see your Twitter comments on here, but I'd love to have you join in the conversation. All right, I'm gonna start grabbing comments here. 1 first down to get to the playoffs, and they can't get it done, says Benjamin Owens. D. Cole saying being a Broncos fan is a special type of suffering. That's kind of what we're hitting on here. That was a painful one. Now, I still feel good about their odds. They came into this week as underdogs, and we're still, had like a 75 to 80% chance to make the playoffs based on the service you looked at. Again, a win next week at home against a team of backups will be enough to get it done. What has me worried is that Chiefs defense is, even with some backups playing, a lot better than this Bengals defense probably. Steve Spagnuolo is a really good head coach, or not head coach, a defensive coordinator, coach of that side of the ball. And I just, and then with how the defenses looked, I think Riley Moss will look better. I think it was a really tough task to come out this week off that really nasty injury and try and guard Chase and Higgins. He got torched today. I don't think it'll be that bad next week against some much lesser receivers. But you got to be worried about the defense too at this point. Like the Chiefs aren't just going to roll over and lose that game. They'll play backups and everything, but they will be calling plays and coaching to win that game. And man, if the offense is playing scared, it won't take a whole lot to beat them. So it is scary. But again, Broncos control their own destiny. It's got to take care of business in one of these 3 games. Mic got unplugged. Okay, great. Can I fix this, or are we doing it without that mic? I think we're doing it without that mic. God, that's annoying. All right. We've done it on this mic before. That's not the end of the world. Okay, back to your comments. Overtime play calling was garbage. Kind of talked about that some. And I agree. It is frustrating to me how it felt like they went more conservative. I do think that's some survivorship bias, though, too, because, they had the throw to Mims in the backfield on the game-winning touchdown drive. I'm pretty sure, right? Or it was one of those late touchdown drives. Maybe it was the one that set up to Sutton. But they hit Mims in the backfield on one of those when it was opened up, and it did click. They were running the ball on early downs. That was a big part of them getting back in this game in the first place. So I do question some of the play calling was garbage thing. I think it definitely was in the first half. I think it was a big problem in the first half and helped contribute to the dismal first half effort against a really bad Bengals defense. Is this the wildest ending to an important Broncos game in the past decade plus? Says D. Cole. I'm sorry, I'll get better about reading usernames. God, it's got to be. I'm trying to think what else could be up there. The Colts game was really important, and that was really funky, with some of the stuff that happened in the second half of that game. But, if we want to look at, from the last 10 minutes of the fourth quarter or 5 minutes of the fourth quarter on, that's got to be. Yeah, it felt like the Broncos could not decide whether they wanted to try and win the game or hand the game away. And ultimately, it seemed like they decided to hand it away. That hurt. Denver Shaden says, my heart. I feel that. TB Muse says, that was a fun game. I'm assuming he's being sarcastic. It was a close competitive game, but very painful. With how much McLaughlin was rolling, frustrating they didn't lean on him in OT where winding down the clock was critical. I think that's a good point, D. Cole. I think that's a very valid point. Coaching killed us. Why did we never go for fourth down? That's a fair question. I don't think they had that many advantageous fourth downs off the top of my head. There weren't that many where I was like, oh, they better go for this on fourth. Someone please tell me if I'm overlooking one. But to me, off just the top of my head, basic memory, I just don't think there was a great opportunity to, where it would have made a lot of sense to, but maybe I'm overlooking one. Get in those comments. Let me see if someone's commenting right now. Can't get off the field on third. Yeah, it doesn't look like it. All right. So someone get in the comments. Let me know if I'm missing something. A fourth down they should have gone for where they punted. Franklin was dogging it and don't rely on our tight ends in crunch time. I agree. Yeah, I think that's probably the problem, but I don't know. You dial up a wide open receiver downfield, and I mean, maybe he drops it anyways, but then let's hold Franklin accountable. It was there. But Bo Nix was long on the throw. It's okay. I mean, he could be Mahomes is long on deep balls, like he could be, and has cost the Chiefs games with some misses. Josh Allen has, like, it's okay for that to be what happened. But I do think, it was there and he missed it. And that hurts a bit. Okay. I disagree with you here, Atomic. Why are we punting the ball back to Joe Burrow? It's OT. I don't care. We should not punt. You know what? You're looking at a 4th and 15 or 4th and 12, something like that on that second one. First series would have been better, but still was a 4th and longish, if I'm remembering correctly. But yeah, I don't know which one they should have gone for there. Anyways, Marco Diaz, bro, we sold so hard. That they did. Had so many opportunities to win that game. It really hurts they couldn't win. Even in regulation, we couldn't get off the field. Yeah, I mean, that's a really frustrating element. I will say, and I don't know, it's tough because this trend has lasted multiple weeks now for the Broncos. We saw it in the second half of the Chargers game and all throughout this one with Joe Burrow. I still have some faith in this defense, and I could look like a total idiot next week. But I still have a good bit of faith in this defense. I was honestly pretty optimistic with what they showed today. They kind of gave out in the second half, but came up with some really big stops. Could have even if they take field goals on those drives, it's 13 in the first half for the Bengals, and you live with that. I think that's probably, I mean, points per possession. That's actually pretty bad. So I take that back. But and I saw some comments about it. They couldn't get off the field on third down. The Bengals kept converting on third down, and it was not mind-numbing. It was so frustrating. I wanted to tear my hair out watching it, but I don't think it makes me go like, oh, this defense is bad now. Sorry guys, I'm tired. I don't think all of a sudden this defense is bad now, because you're playing against a quarterback that, statistically should be in the MVP conversation, and just how he, in a vacuum has played this year should be in the MVP conversation. This is the most dangerous collection of weapons in the NFL between Chase and Higgins and Brown and Gesicki and Yoshivas. I'd say comfortably the most dangerous assortment of weapons in the NFL. And they ate the Broncos up. I mean, we saw it, but that's not going to be what Carson Wentz and, the 2024 version of DeAndre Hopkins can do. So I do think that is worth, or even the 2025 version of Travis Kelce or whatever can do. Got a super chat here from Fravel Edits. The play calling cost us in OT. Bo Nix has a legacy drive, and you don't trust him in OT to be aggressive. Why? Calling for a tie is losing behavior. I'll leave that up on screen. Thank you, Fravel, for the support, by the way. It means the world to all of us with the super chats. But I think it's a fair point, especially when you got back into that game by being aggressive. And the Bengals know you're trying to run out the clock at that point. So they were sitting on it. I think a lot more cost them than that. But I'd agree. I think that's a fair point that they did get overly conservative there, and it did ultimately cost the team points. I mean, and it's such a killer. They were wildly close. Any first down and they're in right there. Goodness. That one's gonna sit with you for a while, Broncos country. That game was so fun to watch. Where were we? Nix didn't look comfortable and Moss isn't fully recovered. Everyone else looked good. I'd agree on Nix. I think the line struggled a good bit, especially in the first half. They were allowing a lot of pressure. I don't think they were winning their blocks, which is part of the reason for the run game struggles early. I think that, but otherwise I'd agree. I think Nix had a disappointing game. What we saw during the comeback gives me some optimism, though, that maybe he snapped out of something and will be ready to go next week. Because the version of Bo Nix they got second half of the LA game and first half of the Cincinnati game, if they get that for the Chiefs game, I am very, very scared next week. Straight up, I am very, very scared. If they get even the second half version of Bo Nix that they got tonight, I feel like they got a pretty good shot. Moss, I fully agree. I don't think anyone should be panicking about Moss. He'll have a long time until next season to heal up, make sure the knee's right and everything. I don't think this is going to be a long-term problem, but it is safe to note that he is not the same Riley Moss right now. And that is something to note going into that Chiefs game, because this Broncos defense is leaning on those cornerbacks so hard. So offense can't move the damn ball. I kind of disagree. I think we saw it in the second half. In the first half, they couldn't move the damn ball. And in overtime, they couldn't move the damn ball. And that's why they lose the game. And, defense not being able to stop the Bengals, they had probably, I think it's the first overtime possession was the only time the Bengals were held outside the 25-yard line of the Broncos. You can't win that way. It's for so many reasons, it's kind of amazing it's as close as it was. The Chase Brown injury kind of bailed out the Broncos. The missed field goal bailed out the Broncos to an extent. They're not even bailed out the Broncos straight up. Not being able to move the ball at all in the first half, and the Bengals moving the ball so well could have sunk the game right there and then. But yeah, it's a problem. I guess this is, I don't know, Broncos country. This is why you shouldn't bury your head in the sand about valid criticisms of rookie quarterbacks. Just being real. What were the criticisms that everyone was getting mad about that were being made about Bo Nix that everyone was getting upset about? Right now, he's pretty reliant on the run game and the screen and the boot out game. Those were it. Okay, well, and he's been throwing underneath a lot, and defenses can key in on that and take it away. All right. Well, all that stuff has come to fruition these last 2, 3, 4 weeks. Without the run game going, with defenses keying in on that short stuff, Bo Nix has looked the worst he's looked since the first 4 games of the season. And I'm not that worried about him figuring out. He's going to have a long off season. He'll have, I trust the Broncos infrastructure now more than I have in a long time. I do think they'll coach him up and continue to develop him. And I'm very optimistic about that look, but he's a rookie, and rookie quarterbacks often have limitations. And right now, these are some of the limitations. Okay. Sorry, everybody. Okay. Yeah, that's my one thing right now. rookie quarterbacks, Jay Daniels is an extreme outlier in this regard, but rookie quarterbacks often struggle to move the ball. CJ Stroud, I use this example a lot this offseason. CJ Stroud in the Texans last year, awesome offense, right? Well, actually ranked like 14th in DVOA and like EPA and all those advanced analytics. It was kind of more middle of the road, and they had a lot of exciting things, and it was such an exciting story that we were really high on the offense, but even still, it was a little above average. I think the Broncos rank, 20th, 22nd. It's kind of par for the course for a rookie quarterback, let alone one saddled with all the roster shortcomings and dead cap and missing draft picks and yada, 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 that Bo Nix is saddled with. So that's my one thing. Like, yes, it is frustrating. This offense can't move the ball at times. This is part of, the growing process with a rookie quarterback. And just with the roster rebuild the Broncos need, I think it wasn't showing up much for the first 14 weeks or 14 games of the season, rather, all the roster limitations. But they've been very obvious at cornerback, at linebacker, at running back, at receiver, at tight end. These past 3 or so weeks at center, even that penalty on Luke Wattenberg today was massive. I got to pick up the pace. So we'll get through more comments here. We'd get a sack damn near every drive and give up 3rd and longs in the second half. It was wildly frustrating. Yeah, that was probably the most frustrating part of the game for me, because, again, with Joe Burrow playing the way he is and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and that crazy assortment of weapons, you have to be damn near perfect to get him to punt the ball. You need to force a third and long almost always to get them to punt the ball. And they were setting up those 3rd and longs, which is also hard to do because, again, that offense is so talented. It's hard to get them to screw up on 1st and 2nd down. And the Broncos were consistently doing that and then folding on 3rd. And that was really, really frustrating. I want to go back and watch the film. I wonder if it was something Vance Joseph was doing on 3rd down. Hopefully it was just Joe Burrow and the Bengals going nutty like last week. I think a lot of that game was just Justin Herbert went out of his damn mind. This week I feel less that way, but a lot of it was that. I got to get Paul's super chat here. Really supporting the show with $50 damn. Good Lord, Paul. Thank you for the support. Lifting LTB up quite a bit with your donation. Thank you very, very much. Paul says, after the last 2 years, this team with all our issues is still far more fun to watch. I agree. They're a lot more fun to watch than the Broncos teams we've had to put up with recently, and I do think they're headed in the right direction. I really hope it ends in a playoff trip this year. It'll be a bitter taste all offseason long if they come up fucking just short. But even if they do, I feel pretty good that they're headed on the right track now. I got to get going on these comments. This one's hard to digest. I fully agree. Need to draft a corner to complement PS2. Need a linebacker and go heavy on offense. I fully agree. Maybe not so much to complement PS2. I think, Jaquan and Riley Moss are great compliments. They lose sometimes like all cornerbacks, and they've got Surtain next to them, so they're picked on more than they otherwise would be. But I think those are great starting corners, well above average at their respective positions. Nonetheless, I fully agree. You need some depth. And Chris Abrams' drain looks to be something that's a nice piece of depth. You need more, at least as long as Vance Joseph is the DC, because they are so cornerback reliant. And we saw, Riley Moss injury has been a Jenga piece for the Denver Broncos. Oh yeah, he's dunking on that. I won't dunk on you, Merlot. I appreciate the comment. Devin, we got handed a gift from the football gods and we went 3 and out. I think that perfectly sums it up, Devin. That was ludicrously painful. Let's make sure I don't have people texting me getting mad at me. All right. Broncos checkdowns are cringe. At this point, I'm cringing when I see them too. I do think they are necessary, that this screen game right now. I think it is a big help to Nix. I think based on what we've seen these last few weeks, he's at a stage in his career where he still needs at least some of that, a good bit of it in the offense. And that's fine. But he needs to be doing more than just that. It can be a part of the offense. It can be a large part of the offense. That can't be the whole offense. And until I'd say, for all of the Chargers game in the first half of the this game tonight, It was the whole offense, and that was a big problem. Too conservative in OT. Hopefully they learn. Yep. It sucks. We're running out of runway to learn this year. You only got one more bite at the apple. I'm devastated, says Jared Thorpe. I'm with you, Jared. Slightly above average, saying that play calling at the end was dog water. Jonathan Smith. Enough is enough. I'm dropping my phone over here. Jonathan Smith saying enough is enough. Just win and you're in. I sympathize with that too. I'll say this. This is a bad Bengals team. I know they beat us there. They are peaking at the right time some, but Bo Nix is the first starting quarterback they've beaten all season long. This is a very flawed Bengals team that has found a way to lose a lot of games. The Chiefs are a very flawed team. Sorry, not the Chiefs. Well, I think they kind of are, but the Chiefs are going to be playing a bunch of backups. They're going to be a very flawed team in that setting with Carson Wentz starting for them. And, no Travis Kelce and no Chris Jones and no Trent McDuffie. Like, they're going to be a flawed team. If the Broncos go 0-2 with everything to play for, especially this next game, you're playing a squad of backups. You have everything to play for. They have nothing to play for. If they can't win that one, they frankly don't deserve to be in the playoffs. Especially after not winning this one. Losing these two games, and haven't lost next week yet. But if they lose this one, they lose next week, they don't deserve to be in the postseason. And they'll get a better draft pick. I mean, I hate we're doing that, but some real flaws on this roster are starting to crop up. And yeah, they draft pick being 4 or 5 picks earlier wouldn't be the worst thing for this team at this juncture. I hate to say it, but punts and OT were awful. I think we've talked about that a lot. Oh, actually, no, we talked about the plays. But the punts were also awful. That was a big problem. Riley Dixon has been awesome this year. Legitimately one of the best punters in the league this season. Top 10, I think, pretty comfortably. You look at his inside the 20 numbers or rate or, average net putt distance or everything. He's top half of the league in it all. Those were maybe his 2 most important punts of the season, and they were both very bad. So that really hurts too. I mean, God, they really snatched defeat from the jaws of victory in this one. Broncos aren't going to the playoffs. Okay, this is a Bengals fan trolling. I'll let him pipe down. I'd rather see this happen in the regular season, not the playoffs, so that's good, I guess. Yeah, I don't know if the playoff game, if they make it, would go all that much better. But victory lap, we had all the momentum to go for 2. And I get that. I don't know. I kind of got it at that point. Your defense had been playing, I felt, a little better, which was weird because the Bengals had scores, but you were getting those consistent, like, 3rd and longs, and it finally came to fruition in overtime. You also had the T. Higgins fumble, where even if that wasn't a fumble, it would have been incomplete, and they would have been punting on 4th down there. To where, 2 of the last 3 possessions, or I guess one of the last 2 possessions, your defense actually had finally made a quality stop. And I understood the mindset of not wanting to leave it all up to one play. That said, I think they probably should have gone for 2 there. You're on the road. I wonder if someone got in Peyton's ear. I wonder if the fact that a tie also got the Broncos to the playoffs was a determining factor. Because they in overtime, they kind of would have won with either a win or a tie. I wonder if that came into the calculation at all. But yeah, I think I kind of wish they went for 2. I'm not overly upset about it in the moment. I was like, but I kind of get it with how the defense has looked these last few possessions and the offense being red hot right now. I don't know if I want to leave it up to one play. I felt like, over the last 10 minutes of that game, let's say the Broncos were the better team. So cool, let's play another 10 minutes of football. And I expected to bear out that we're the better team. And they shriveled up in overtime. Not Zach Allen, but really, really shriveled up in overtime. Shouldn't be punting to Burrow in overtime. Give yourself a chance to go for it better than giving Burrow the ball. I disagree. You're on your 15-yard line looking at 3rd and 15. you punt the ball. I mean, especially after your defense just had a pretty impressive stop of Burrow. I think I feel this is one thing that annoys me, like the results reacting instead of process reacting. Man, if Sean Payton goes for it on 4th down on his own 15 there, when like the Broncos make the playoffs by a tie and just running out the clock and playing good defense, and they just hand the Bengals another chance at a game-winning field goal there. No, I'm sorry. There's no way people are like, yeah, no, that's what you got to do. No, that's not how you handle overtime. Not on your own 15. If they're at the 35 and it's okay, well, we'll be giving them a 52-yarder. I can kind of get behind it there, but at your own 15, there's just no, or 20, there's just no fucking way. I also disagree with this. I feel like Peyton is great at development and team management, but his play calling has been rough. I disagree. I think this offense is playing really well relative to the talent level. We have a rookie quarterback, a lot of bad running backs, a lot of bad receivers, and a lot of bad tight ends. And they're like the 20th best offense in the league. Damn y'all. Like, I don't know. It would be nice if the offense was better. It would be really nice if it was a little bit better. But man, look at what they have to work with here. I'm not surprised it's not much better. I don't know. I think in it's still 10 minutes first half. We're good at least 7:30. Okay, so 7 or 7:38. I might be. I got time streaming this, y'all. I don't really have to sweat too hard. Yeah, looks like I'm doing this till 7:30 or 8. All right, or at least I'm good to go as long as 7:30 or 8. Probably a little before. Broncos trash, says Fernando Solano. I understand feeling that way after this one. Are you shocked the Franklin-Nix combo isn't working? A little. You'd think they'd have better chemistry coming out of college. I'm not surprised with like the Franklin end of it, the drops and whatnot. But so often we talk about, quarterback receiver chemistry, and their timing's been off. Nix has been long or a little short on a lot of these targets to Franklin, and maybe it's just inaccuracy. But it is weird, that hasn't gone that way. I'm not worried about it. We got a better record than a lot of people thought we were going to. Okay, sorry. Let me reread this. This is Big E Bronco. I'm not worried about it. We got a better record than a lot of people thought. We're going to make the playoffs anyway. Pittsburgh going to beat Cincinnati next week, and Denver's going to beat KC next week. And I agree. I feel pretty good about Pittsburgh beating Cincinnati next week, honestly. The Chargers winning today made the Colts irrelevant for the Broncos. Need the Dolphins to lose one of these next two. If the Dolphins lose tomorrow, I will be resting so much easier. If the Dolphins win tomorrow and they've got a game against, I think it's the Patriots. Oh, man, and Drake May got injured today, didn't he? No, it's the Jets. Okay, the Jets. I think Aaron Rodgers is motivated to screw up their draft position, but that's still a pretty bad team. Dolphins are the team I'm worried about right now if I'm a Broncos fan. Really need them to lose one. Or the Broncos to win. Again, that's ideal, but anxious about that at this point. Peyton lost this game with his middle school play calling and OT. He needs to give up play calling. I think the talent is underrated and Sean is overrated. I mean, we saw this before and after Sean Payton, right? Do we remember 2022? Am I the only one who remembers 2022? Right? Remember how like poorly coached that team was? And like, that's an extreme example with Nate Hackett, but like how it was just one of the biggest laughing stocks in the league. Two years ago this week, they lost to a Baker Mayfield led Rams team 50-14 with a lot of the same players, by the way, a lot of the same players. And the places where they don't have the same players, they've downgraded, like losing Jerry Jeudy and whatnot. Yeah, I guess I would disagree. Here's why I think this is so reactionary. Again, the Broncos have on offense, just in general as a team, dramatically exceeded expectations this year. Sean Payton holds the NFL record among all play callers in terms of highest points per game average. And his Broncos tenure, not that far off his Saints tenure average. We had, and the defensive scores helped, but we had a 5-game streak of 30-pointers. Yeah, okay, here's the Broncos' last few scores. 24, 27, 31, 41, 29, 38. That's 6 games. When was the last time the Broncos had 6 games where they averaged 33, 35 points? Like, I think this is so reactionary. I know it hurts. We all wanted the playoffs. It looked like it was there. They're coming up short. Peyton's part of the reason why. And I get being mad at the guy. It's fair to be mad at the guy. I get being mad at the fact that this team is going cold down the stretch each of these last 2 years. Hold Peyton's to the fire, feet to the fire about that. Having a week and a half off after that Chargers game and not being able to come up with better solutions for the first half for Bo Nix, where he looked just as suffocated as he was in the second half of the Chargers game. Like, those are things I think to hold Sean Payton accountable for all day, every day. Some of his ego and over-aggression at times. The 4th down decision last week late in the game was incredibly costly to the Broncos. That's on Sean Payton. They need to give Joe Lombardi the play calling is so removed from the right course of action. And I think it is almost entirely based in the emotion and the pain that we're feeling from this loss. I'm sorry. It does frustrate me. I'm not gonna lie. How every game the Broncos lose, it's like, got to get rid of Payton. Oh my, we got to get rid of Payton. We got to get rid of this guy's play calling. Dude, Payton's a real problem with this team. It is insane. Like, look at the turnaround he's done. The Bo Nix, everyone's so excited about Bo Nix. He's the sacred cow. Sean Payton's why they have Bo Nix. I mean, it's just, and why he's looked as good as he did as a rookie. I feel like everyone got men in blacked about 2016 to 2022. They've grown so much from where they were 2 years ago. They need to keep growing. I fully agree. It's frustrating. They're not, they haven't maybe grown enough to reach the playoffs this postseason. And Payton deserves some criticism for that. There's a difference between criticizing a guy and calling for his job or play calling responsibilities or whatever. It's just so dramatic. Sorry. That's worn on me over the course of this year. That's directed at Broncos fans in general, not that one guy. LTB Muse, Chiefs would be wise to let the Broncos win. Honestly, you're probably right there. If I'm the Chiefs, especially with like how Joe Burrow's gotten you in the past, and Lou Anarumo's really befuddled Patrick Mahomes in the past, you're also going to get a peek at the Broncos throwing everything at the wall to try and win that game. Like, the Broncos aren't going to have the luxury to hold things close to the chest. So you're going to see everything they have. And then at that point, you'll have 2 full games of tape between you and the Broncos to study. And, there's the saying, it's hard to beat a team 3 times. And if the Broncos win, it'd only be the first time they beat the Chiefs this season. But we all saw that blocked field goal. Like, they were that close to beating them again. So it's hard, I think, to, if they beat them in week 18, orchestrate another performance like that, where at least you're in position to beat the Chiefs with 1 second left in the ball game, 3 times in a row. I think that's very hard to do. So you're right. Bo wanted to, we should have done it, easier pill to swallow. I'd agree. That's less painful. But to the rant I just had, I have so little doubt that if they go for 2, they don't get it. I'm hearing the gripe the other direction, not from you, but from some people in the fan base that are going, I can't believe they went for 2. They lost the game. They had all the momentum. They should have let it go to overtime. They were the hotter team then, rather than leaving it up to one play. So I don't know. Though I do agree. If you're on the road, you're also the team that has been having to come back for most of the second half. I think that's a spot where you should generally go for it. We were giving so many opportunities and we did nothing. I think that's why it's so frustrating. I fully agree, Fernando Solano. We got a lot of God, y'all, I need to pick up the pace. I am very sorry, y'all. Win or lose. Okay. We'll do to use if we do get in. We'll do to use. I'm sorry, I don't understand that. Bills don't scare me. I would be worried about them if they match up. One and done guys, probably. I mean, that is one thing to keep in mind. This team, with how they're playing right now, I think there's a good chance they make the playoffs. I really don't feel good anymore about their chances of winning a playoff game. And after that Falcons game, I was saying, you know what? I think they match up with a team like the Steelers or the Texans. They'll win that game, and I think they'll be 11-6. And there was a good chance they're in that 6 or 5 seed. I no longer feel that way. Right now, I'm just hoping to make the playoffs. I think that would be amazing. That's something maybe keep on. I love that Bo, this is Phoenix again. I love that Bo wanted to. We should have gone for it. So many stupid, plain idiotic coaching decisions at the worst times on both sides of the ball. Cernat on Chase on third down near the red zone? Question mark, question mark. Yeah, I need to see. I think they sent him in motion before that play. I'll also tell you this. That play's not designed for Cernat to be isolated with Chase. You know, like that's the Bengals kind of forcing the Broncos' hand on that one. It's the same thing. Like, Patrick Surtain's not going to cover the guy every snap because you can't do that. You're going to hide him in the slot and certain areas where you're putting both Surtain and Jaquan McMillan at a disadvantage by swapping them. So that's one aspect. The other aspect, if you're going to follow him all over the field when he's motioning, and he was in motion this game, you have to be in man all game. And there are things in the NFL called man coverage beaters, which are route concepts that are great against man coverage. What do you think the Bengals do, and Joe Burrow does, if he sees that he's getting man coverage on Jamar Chase every single snap? I think he runs a man coverage beater, and I think he gets Jamar Chase for a big play. So that's why you have to mix it up some. Plain idiotic coaching decisions. I would disagree with that description of the 2-point decision. I think you could disagree with it totally, but 6 in one, half a dozen in the other. I don't think Broncos win that coin toss, and who knows what happens. I mean, probably nothing with how the offense looked in the second half or in overtime. I think that's another thing to say. Phoenix, if we hate Sean Payton's play calling so much, why do we want the game left up to one Sean Payton play call in a hard to execute spot of the field? Like, that's my thing. Like, there's an inherent inconsistency with some of these arguments. Anyways. People on X were commenting on Franklin not going full speed in overtime. I haven't seen that, but possible. I wouldn't say it's impossible. If that is true. Oh, Rick Lewis did say something about that on the call. I was listening while watching the game, and he was talking about how, it did look like Franklin kind of slowed down as ball was coming in. So that's a problem. Yes, we should have gone for 2, win or lose it while you have control. I don't know. After that second Zach Allen sack on third down, going to overtime is the right decision. Your offense has all the momentum in the world. You're getting the ball back, and a field goal wins it for you. Or a tie wins it for you, as opposed to, again, one play in the 2-yard area of the field. I mean, it's awesome that they had that Mims touchdown, but let's not forget about how that end of game drive went. Like, they were stalling out around the 50 or 40, and they needed that crazy Javonte Williams grab, and using their last timeout at a 4th and 1 crazy fling up to the red zone or to the end zone that almost got overturned because it was so close to not being a touchdown in order to get in. That leaving it up to one play. And I'm ultimately with you guys. I do wish they went for 2, but I don't think it's a clear-cut thing with how that game had been going and all the execution errors the Broncos had throughout the game on offense too. We just aren't ready to compete. We are 3 years away with a rookie quarterback. Face the facts. I would really disagree with that. I mean, I think it depends what you're talking about. This team should be considerably better than they are this year, next year. I think some things will probably find the mean. The defense is probably going to regress some next year. Offense hopefully takes a step forward. But I think this is a team that probably wins about the same amount of games next year, 11-6, 10-7. But they're a better team, just like the eye test. They clearly look like a better team. And Bo Nix takes a step forward. Offense takes a step forward. Then 2026, I think, you're fully free of the rust dead cap at that point. You've had a few draft classes to come in, get some time to develop. Nix has maybe even seen a playoff game or two at that point. I don't know if you're winning the Super Bowl then, but I think that's when maybe you can be viewed as a legitimate contender. 2 years. Yeah, I don't know. I think 3 years away is very dramatic. I think a lot of this is, a big swing based on, let's say they do go for 2 and they get it and they win. I probably wouldn't be freaking out this much. And that's such a small, or they win the coin toss and they drive down and they get a field goal. I don't know. I think this is a big swing because that's one of the most painful losses I have in my memory. But I don't think that posting stuff Susie saying. Okay, I'm actually going to have to get close to wrapping this thing up. We're going to lightning round this. Bo overthrew it by an inch, plain and simple, says Waz about the deep throw. Forcing it to Franklin, those passes does not work. Give it to Mims and Sutton, not Franklin. Or Valet. Mims, Sutton, Valet, that should be the bread and butter. Franklin, I don't think you can rely on. Sources tell me that Joey Richards is coping by watching the Colorado Buffs play. He is. See, you better come through. Go Buffs. Couldn't do shit against one of the worst Ds in the NFL. Yeah, I mean, very disappointing first half. You guys saw it. You have a rookie quarterback who in that first half was very uncomfortable doing anything that wasn't a check down or a screen. Same thing in the second half against the Chargers. If you are playing a well-coached defense, and Lou Anarumo is a very good defensive coordinator, they just have bad talent on that side of the ball. And you're that simplistic, your passing game's that simplistic, it's going to be easy to stop. And Peyton's to blame for some of that. Bo is also very much to blame for a lot of that because it wasn't all those types of play calls. There were play calls for it to be opened up, and Bo's passing him up. Bo's dropping his eyes and scrambling. He's feeling the pressure way too easily. It looked like the Bo of the first 5 weeks of the season. And that's also a problem. Should have went for 2, knowing the offense was struggling. Shake my head. So this is my thing. Why do you want to put one play on the offense? Why do you want to put the whole game on one offensive play if your thought process is, oh my God, my offense is struggling? Maybe you meant defense there. He must mean defense. But I also, again, the defense was playing the best they had up until that point. Again, I would have preferred they go for 2. Woulda, coulda, shoulda, says LTB Muse. I get that for sure. One positive, Bo didn't crumple in the massive pressure at the end of regulation. I think that is nice. I think the fact that he had that interception and then wasn't gun shy, because I think he's been gun shy since the 3 interception game. After he threw that interception, I was like, God damn it, they need to open up the passing game, and I think he's going to be scared to do it. And he did it, and that's what they need. So I'm optimistic that hopefully he shook out of it or snapped out of it or whatever. Franklin is bad, says Fernando Solano. I don't disagree. Who day, baby. Oof. Yes, the Chiefs will let us back into the playoffs. We didn't deserve it. The Javonte screen when the game was tied at 17 was perhaps the worst play call of all time. That one's honestly not coming to mind right now. There's so much crazy shit happened this game. Facts, you can't move the ball in the 31st ranked defense, says you're not a playoff game. Maybe next year after we get rid of the dead money from Wilson. That's the thing. If you're not able to take advantage of this opportunity, you're probably not ready for it. Emiliano Zapata, thank you for the support, man. He says, LTB, thanks for the coverage. Can't believe the offense shit the bed in OT, though. I know they are overachieving, but it's still starting to hurt a bit. And don't get me wrong. I get it hurting. I'm hurt right now. This is very, very painful. But yeah, it's rough. Okay, I gotta get wrapping this up. Once again, But I get it hurting, but I also think, look at all the progress this team made this year. Don't blow it up. That's what the Broncos did between like 2016 and 2022. Going back onto this, you got me going again. I heard all throughout the Drew Lock tenure and all throughout the Russell Wilson tenure, oh my God, if Denver gets a good quarterback, they're going to run him out of town because they're just so impatient. They're going to run out of honestly, no, they won't. They won't. We saw it with Russell Wilson being terrible in 2022, embarrassing, just absolute laughing show. And most of the fan base still wanted him back. They are plenty patient about quarterback. Head coach, man, after this season, damn, like, wow. After the first 3 games of Sean Payton's tenure, which, hey, he's a new coach installing a system. It's a complex system, new DC. We saw how bad that was early on. After that Dolphins game, even with this loss, they're what? 8-9, so 16, and they're 17-16. Not great, but that's especially for where they are in the rebuild, pretty phenomenal and a lot better than they should be. Throat's running out. Once again, the VJ defense can't do anything against an above-average quarterback this season. 4th and 2 doesn't have his guys in position. That was one of the worst plays of the game. Man, 4th and 2, and they did not know who was supposed to be on Chase Brown. That was terrible. And also, I mean, I guess the timeouts came into play later. But right then I was like, that you need to call a timeout there. Like, you can't just that's a huge 4th and 2. Get your guys right. So you're maybe stopping that play. Virtuous Exile coming back in with some positivity. But we have a winning record for the first time in almost a decade with a rookie quarterback, no running game. I'm content for now. Draft a tight end, add another wide receiver and running back, and we good. I'm with you, Virtuous. I'm with you. D-Rags, all the play calling falls on Sean. He's terrible and should leave it to the OC up in the box. Bro, look at Joe Lombardi's track record. You do not want that. If you run the ball 3 times after the missed field goal, the Bengals don't have time to drive the field and score. We tie and go to the playoffs. Maybe, but the 2-minute warning was right there, right? At 20, they still get the 2-minute warning. I guess they wouldn't have any timeouts, but the game ended with about a minute. You also have to consider they probably spiked the ball. They're handling the clock a little bit differently in that circumstance. Maybe your odds are a little better. I don't know if it ultimately changes. Too much. Had to make sure my phone wasn't blowing up. Yes, they do. I don't know what that's in regard to. Losing last week and today was like losing games 5 and 6 after having a 3-1 series lead. All comes down to game 7. Perfectly put, Barrett. Perfectly put. And I'll say, Nuggets fans just kind of had the opposite end of the spectrum of this. You went down 2-0. It was embarrassing. Stormed all the way back and then ended up blowing it at the end. So it's not over till it's over. You can lose that momentum and then still bounce back, regain it, win game 7. As we saw the T-Wolves do in that painful game. Can't get off the field on 3rd down, and good playoff teams don't give that up. I'd agree. Those 3rd and longs, they gave up way too many 3rd and longs. We've seen this before when we started 6-0 and missed the playoffs by losing the last 4 games of the season and finished 8-8. True. But that was a team on the downswing rather than a team, building up from a 5-12 season, right? So I think that's a critical difference. Also, a team that was supposed to win 5 games this year. Like, some of this is just like all the crazy shit they had for the first 15 games of the season regressing to the mean, or 14 games of the season, whatever. I don't know if we could even beat the Chiefs backups right now. It is something I'm worried about. Paul saying, I want a playoff spot for experience, but getting in versus backups after 2 straight losses, I don't know. I don't care how they get in, man. Let's get that playoff drought off our back. Let's see Bo Nix get some playoff experience. I'm all for it. I don't know if we could even beat the Chiefs backups. Yeah, we have a better chance of Pitt beating the Bengals and Dolphins losing to either Browns or Jets. I disagree, because that's 2 things you need to happen. I think the Broncos beating the Chiefs is more likely than all that happening. Franklin should have been the guy on that third down, or shouldn't have been the guy on that third down. Should have been Valet or Sutton, maybe even Mims again. Fully agree, Joe. Think I said that earlier. You were probably commenting that while I was talking about it. But yeah, those should be the big three, at least this season. So exhausting watching Troy Franklin almost make game-changing catches and fail every single time. That is aptly put, Benjamin. It is extremely painful. Should have gone for 2 and swallowed that pill if it went bad. Yeah, we talked about that a lot. Jared Thorpe, automatic 626. Our defense was great today, holding the Bengals to 24 points. I'll live with that. I disagree. I don't think it was that great today. Great fourth down stops in the first half. The Bengals got into Denver territory every single drive of the game, inside the 25, all but 2 drives. Like, that's bad. That's really, really bad. The pace of the game was really slow. Both teams only had 3 possessions in the first half. Here's why you look at points per possession. It perfectly illustrates it right here. 7.5 points. That's a really good defensive performance, right? It was great. 2.3 yards per drive or points per drive is more like a middling defensive performance. It's not elite. It's more middling. And that's with those crazy stops. If they get the field goals there, they settle for the field goals. It would have been 13 over 3. So that's 4 point something. That's like crazy elite offense. That would be best offense in the league by a crazy wide margin if you're averaging 4 points per drive. So they end with, 30 points over, God, I don't know how many drives they had, but they probably averaged north of 3 points per game. And that's not great defense. That's what, a bottom 10 defense gives up, is like 3 points per drive. Waz here. What's crazy to me is we'd have the spot locked right now if the field goal versus KC wasn't blocked. I was thinking that same thing when Cade York missed his field goal. I'm like, all right, well, they're getting that one back now. And now they can drive down, they'll beat the Bengals, and it'll all kind of come out in the wash. I literally had that thought. And nope, 3 and out. Already covered that ad nauseum. Deco plus side. Marvin Mims with the game of his career today. Extremely impressive top to bottom. He's developing, he's growing. He should be a piece for this Broncos offense to continue building around. That's a big boon. Bummed now, but still way more fun to watch this team over past year's teams. I fully agree, Paul. Waz again. Burrow threw for 400 plus and 3 TDs, 0 interceptions. Yeah, kind of illustrating the point of bad defense. We need to play cleaner. We had so many penalties that just killed us. Fully agree. Carl, it should have been 17-3 in the first half if they simply kicked field goals. Excuse me. And if Chase didn't drop the TD that hit him in the hands, the defense has been bad for at least a month. Fravel, what specific calls were bad? And can you break down why the call was bad? Cad is going to have a spot in the secondary sooner rather than later. So is Skinner, IMO. Locke is so mid. I think Skinner, if you elevate him into that lock spot, has a lot of the problems Locke has had this year. One of the big free agents out there that is almost definitely actually going to hit the open market, and I think the Broncos should be in on, is Javon Holland. You'd allow PJ Locke to go back to that third safety role where he thrived, and I think he can still be a really good player. I think he's shown this year that the starting has been a little rough. He's had some good games, but it's been a lot of up and down. And I think a guy like Javon Holland, he's an elite talent. He should be available because of the position he plays. He shouldn't be wildly expensive. And I think would just be such a valuable chess piece for this defense, especially if they're going to stay with this like Jim Leonard, Vance Joseph school of blitzing. Justin Cernat is a liability. I agree at this point. He's been bad these past 2 weeks. He got benched partway through this game. And I understand why. It was 2.5 bad games leading up to that benching. Our whole middle linebacker group is terrible. One of the biggest weaknesses on this team. And not one I think you try to solve through the draft. We see drafted linebackers normally take 3-4 years to get their feet under them, figure it out. It's such a mentally taxing
position. And unlike quarterback, you can't dictate what you're doing. Like quarterback's really taxing. So Bo Nix is a rookie. Let's give him a lot of screens. Let's give him a lot of boots. Let's give him a lot of easy answers, right? Can't really do that for your middle linebacker. He's having to react to what's happening. I think that's when you want to solve in the vet market. Had a problem with our safeties today? I did. I thought they were flawed. Where's my water? I need it. Oh, it's still in my car. Great. Oh, my throat's totally drying out here, y'all. I'm going to keep soldiering on. I'm starting to see why Estimate dropped in the draft, though. I don't know. Today I thought was his worst game, minus fumbles. He was not an inspiring runner today, but prior to today, I thought he had looked pretty good toting the rock. Broncos couldn't stop the tight end. I fully agree. Gesicki went off on him. That illustrated the kind of linebacker safety problems we were just talking about. Atomic here says Jaleel is a better runner than Audric currently. Audric kind of struggles. It's not much different than Javonte. I disagree. I think his vision's way better. I think he's got a good bit more juice. I think he's a step and a half up from where Javonte is right now. Sync. I would really like for us to scrap that one screenplay we always call at least once that throws a receiver to the flat and is outnumbered by defenders. I agree, but I think that's kind of similar to the one, if I'm picturing it right, where Marvin Mims has a big gain on one of the Broncos' late touchdown drives. So, I think it's a tricky thing. Jones is very good. Locke is not. Yeah, Brandon Jones has been awesome. Locke is not. Couple splash plays here and there, but Locke is not consistently good. Well, says Audric is so one-dimensional. Dude is good for a 4 or 5 yard run up the middle once every 8 carries. His success rate is not that. Actually, his success rate is really good. It's like 4 or 5 yard run up the middle, 2 out of every 3 carries. That's pretty dang good. TW, we need to get 2 running backs this upcoming draft. I fully agree. 1 on day 2, 1 on day 3. And if you're cutting the one you drafted on day 3, that's a good problem to have. But they need some juice in that backfield. He clearly can't pass block. That's why Javonte played so much during the year. I disagree. I also disagree there. Javonte's a better pass protector, but yeah. Estimate hurts when Tyrone Tracy is a top 3 player on the Giants. Fully agree. I was a big Tyrone Tracy guy, and I wish they went that direction. Sean Payton said the Broncos considered going for 2 after the Mims touchdown, but figured that they could still clinch a playoff berth with a tie. Damn. I hate that that's a big part of the rationale there. It kind of makes sense if you're thinking 2 out of 3 outcomes, but I just would not have thought, because I thought it when they were going to overtime after the Broncos tied it at 24. I was like, a tie, I'm pretty sure gets them in too. But I was like, oh, well, that's probably the least likely outcome, because the idea of neither of these teams scoring for 10 minutes after what we saw is pretty unlikely. And, it's kind of how it bore out. So I would hate that that's a huge factor in the decision-making. I wish it was more about game feel, game flow. That does make it more worthy of criticism than it was before. If I knew that was his answer earlier, I wouldn't have defended the decision so much, because I think that's some bad process. It's a more questionable process. You give Bo Nix the weapon Cincinnati has on offense and see how good he looks. Give him that Cincy offensive line and see how good he looks. He's been protected more in terms of pass blocking more than any quarterback in the NFL this year. So Burrow has better weapons than anyone in the NFL. Nix is better pass protection. So I do think 6 in one, half a dozen in the other. I think our corners got burned a lot. Fully agree. It was a bit of a rough day for the corners. Riley Moss and McMillan had a rough game, so third down Burrow just picked them apart. God, I'm still not up yet. I'm kind of surprised I haven't gotten a text yet. BJ was playing. Oh, man, there's a lot of comments. I'm not going to get to all these. Shit. I'm sorry, guys. Damn. I'm going to try my best. BJ was playing off and soft zone on 3rd and longs all game for the most part. There was too much of that. I'd agree. The soft zones on 3rd. Every week I worry more that Sean Payton is just Mike McCarthy. I wouldn't worry about that. I think if you zoom out very, very, very far, very, very, very far, and you look at the smallest details, or not the smallest details, the things like a Super Bowl win and having a good quarterback. You can make that case. I think if you start zooming in any closer than that, like if we just want to look, oh, they both won one Super Bowl and they both had good quarterbacks. Once you start zooming in any further than that, is the two they separate very fast. So I'm not worried about that at all. What are you talking about? Against the Chargers, they were leaving dudes wide open over the middle. Herbert went sicko mode on like one play where he scrambled. I fully disagree. I mean, there was some busted coverage. Herbert was playing out of his damn mind that game. I would say, what are you talking about, Carl? Herbert was on one. He diced them apart. That was one of the best games from Herbert I've seen all season. I think that did have more to do with Herbert than the Broncos defense. Second round at the latest, I disagree. You're drafting a guy to be a backup for the foreseeable future. You don't draft a guy who's a backup for the foreseeable future in the second round or the first round. Bengals have two excellent wide receivers. It's hard to defend both of them. That's the thing. Man, that Moss dude sucks. I disagree. Playing a great receiver off a ACL. Someone's going to pay T. Higgins $30 million this offseason. They don't throw at PS2, and the other cornerback is getting slaughtered all game usually. Not usually. That's only been a thing since Moss had a gruesome MCL injury, where it was kind of surprising it wasn't an ACL that finished his season and had him out for like the first month of next season. Not usually. When PS2 is the only cornerback out there, yes, usually. That's true. Riley Moss had a bad day today. Absolutely. I won't disagree. But he was a top 10 cornerback. Like, I don't think, and top 10 might be strong, top 20. Like, he would have been the best corner on a lot of NFL teams this season with what he was doing opposite of Pat Surtain. Like, it's crazy. I'm telling you guys, it is crazy how well Riley Moss played, especially in his first NFL action this season. He is, maybe the best, one of the best number 2 corners in the league. I'm hard pressed to think of many that are better going forward. That is not the problem here. Like, was it today? Yes. First game off a serious knee injury, playing a really good receiver and an elite quarterback with MVP numbers. It's not always Broncos bad. Not always. Whose fault is it today, right? Sometimes you're going up against fucking Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and that's tough for cornerbacks. Okay. Another rant. Done. Riley Moss is still a developmental project, and today was a harsh reminder of that. I just still fully disagree. Maybe you just mean like he's a young guy and he's exposed to faults, because you say he hadn't had a bad game since week 1 versus Lockett at the close there. So I don't know. Maybe I'm reading that. I don't think he's a project. We saw it for fucking 13 weeks or whatever. That was tough, but what a game. Also, remember when PS2 was gone and Riley Moss did a damn good job holding up in his stead. Like, we weren't having the Levi Wallace conversation then, oddly enough. I don't think he's better than Surtain, but the Broncos secondary held up better without Surtain than it did without Moss. A lot of that's quarterbacks they were playing, but Moss is so far from being a defensive problem. Today he wasn't. Are we set to go?
I'm going to interrupt.
No, you're fine.
Whenever
All right. Duty calls, everybody. Again, I was able to go way longer than I expected to be able to. I thought I was going to have to wrap up like 30 minutes early. I'm going to miss a lot of the recent comments. So let me just hit some of your recent ones quick. Appreciate the coverage, Zach. At least you showed up today. Thank you, Ben. Nuggets fans feeling like you have Barry Sanders on an otherwise pathetic team. Oh, yeah, I get that. Would have been it's nice to see Marvin Mims' electric punt return today. Middle linebacker, such an underappreciated position. Time to bring the outlaw back. Josie Jewell, y'all, I'm telling y'all, was not appreciated enough in his time. Sean Payton is an incompetent play caller. Wild stuff out here. My Lord, we complain about Moss getting bullied by some of the best receivers in the league. You know how much it sucks complimenting the cornerback one? Bingo sync. Like, that's the thing, guys. Today sucked. And there was a lot of bad. I'm not trying to there's a lot of bad. Peyton, Nix, defense. There's a lot of bad today. But sometimes, and I felt the Chargers gave people this way today, sometimes a team plays good too. And like it's kind of the deal. You know, I think the Bengals played I wouldn't say well all day, but like Joe Burrow played a damn great game. T. Higgins played a phenomenal game, especially considering he was injured. And Bo Nix had a bad game, and Sean Payton had a bad game. And yeah, sometimes that shit happens. Sucks. All right. That'll do it for this one, y'all. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the super chats, the likes, the comments. It all means the world. We'll be back on Monday, I believe, maybe Sunday. Until next time, everybody, let's go Broncos. Playoffs, here we come. I still have the faith. You guys should have the faith too.